Hi, I'm Dan O'Day from dansavesradio.com, and this is a very special interview with Sandy Wood, who lives somewhere in, around, or near Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Is that correct, Sandy?
That's correct. I live on Toronto Island, actually.
Oh, I think
which
that
is
gives
in the
me,
harbor of Toronto.
Yeah, I think that gives me a clue to something we're going to talk about soon. Now,
I think it does.
Now, a lot of people are familiar with you already because you're a successful voice talent. You do voiceovers. And the reason we are talking today is several months ago I convinced a friend to reopen his course on how to make your own iPhone apps. And I did have to convince him or beg him or threaten him. It was really a combination of the three into reopening it one last time. And you were one of the people who signed up for the course, and you also joined our iPhone apps mastermind group as a bonus.
Right.
So I have some questions for you, just taking you back to that time. Prior to getting emails from me about my friend's cool app making videos that I thought you should watch, had you ever seriously thought about making apps yourself?
No, I really hadn't. It was the very first planting of the idea in my head. So absolutely.
What if 6 months ago I had said to you, you know, Sandy, I think you should start making your own iPhone apps? How would you have responded?
You know, I think it's a good question, but I think someone just suggesting it like that might not have been enough. I think I had to be convinced.
Would you have thought, yeah, that sounds like something I could do?
No, I don't think I would have known where to start.
Okay, did you have any computer programming experience?
You wouldn't call it programming, but I've done HTML for websites.
Okay, so you definitely know more than I do. HTML is code, right? So you can write HTML, is that right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm wondering if that means that you might have been a little less intimidated by it, even though part of what we kept telling people is you don't have to write code, and in fact you shouldn't be. You should be hiring someone to write the code. But so you could do some basic HTML, but in terms of programming some kind of application, whether a mobile app or a desktop, you did not have that kind of experience. Is that accurate?
Definitely. I mean, I never would have thought of developing a desktop app for the Macintosh, for example.
Okay, so although we haven't talked about it yet, I'll reveal something, which is that you now have released a successful, I think, kind of spectacular app. So now that you have released your own totally professional app, now how much app programming experience do you personally have?
No, I still don't have any experience programming. I have experience working with the programmers.
I think most people who were exposed to this, whether they ended up joining or not, the ones who were interested, I think the majority of them must have had to overcome some fear of, will I be able to do it, or is this a ripoff, or, I don't want to waste my money. Am I correct in hearing that you really didn't feel nervous or scared or worried to any significant degree?
Oh, I did. I did feel worried and scared. But it was really outweighed by, I guess, what I realized after watching the teleseminar, that this is like the next web, and this is where everything's going, and that I really wanted to be part of it.
A really big fear for most people is the idea of hiring a programmer, because what the course taught you was how to go to one of the freelance sites like Odesk or Elancer or one of the others, and how to find a total stranger far away from you in another part of the world who could do a great job bringing your vision to life. Does the fact that you had worked with programmers in some way, did that make it so you weren't worried about that aspect either?
No, I don't think so. I think it is difficult working with programmers, even if they're in the same room, because you have different languages, it seems, and then working with programmers at a distance adds another challenge, of course.
Right. A significant portion of the course was devoted to showing you step by step how to hire someone at a distance. And that was one of the things that I certainly thought I would never be able to do. But by the time I watched the videos devoted to that, and especially there was at least one video that actually showed Trey, the friend whose course this was, showed him hiring a programmer in real time on one of the websites. He recorded the whole thing. And that really was an eye-opener. Do you recall seeing that video?
I do, and I wouldn't have thought of doing that, and I don't think I would have had the nerve to do it if I hadn't seen Trey's video.
Yeah, and after I saw it, even before the end, it was like, oh, I can't wait to do that. That's not hard. That's not hard at all. It's just communication. So let's talk a little bit about your app. Your app is called the Toronto Island Ferry Finder.
Right.
Ferry as in the relatively small boat that takes you short distances. Let's say that we just met at a party or an industry function, and I say to you, I hear that you create iPhone apps. So what does your app do? What would you say in response?
Well, I guess I'd say you can get the schedule for the boats to the island, and you can also look at a map and see where you are on the island. And one of the buttons you can push is show me the nearest ferry dock. So it will calculate where you are and draw you a path to get to one of 3 boats on the island that is closest to you when you want to get back to the city. And on top of that, you can send your location to a friend by email. So if you're trying to meet up with somebody, and it's a big park, you might have said, let's meet on the island, and you can't find each other, then you could just send each other a map of where you are.
That part I thought was really cool, and it's one of the, they're called screenshots, and when you have an iPhone app in the App Store, they require you to provide, I think it's at least it's 3 or 4 screenshots that they require, and one of them shows the email. Subject, my location from Toronto Island, and then it says, I'm at the blue dot on the map, and there is a very colorful map that has pins indicating where everything is. I mean, that's just really cool. And I can imagine if somebody's trying to catch a ferry and they can't figure out, there are 4 of them, right? 4 different ferries?
Yeah, there's 1 on the mainland and 3 on the island. Okay,
so they're trying to catch a ferry, and they're on a schedule, and the ferry is on a schedule, and the ferry is not going to wait for them, and they're frantic. They went to the wrong place at first, and with your app, it shows them. It shows them step by step. Okay, this is where you are. Go here. We're telling you exactly where to go, step by step. I just think that's brilliant.
Oh, good. I'm really glad you like that.
How long did it take you to know what you wanted to do for your first app?
I was afraid I was behind, actually, in the course, because everybody else seemed to have come up with an app. But I was still exploring apps and trying to decide what I would do and whether I would try to take an existing app and change it a little bit, or whether I wanted to do something brand new. I had almost decided to do a variation on an app called Find My Car. When you leave your car, you press a button saying this is where my car is, and then when you come back, you say Find My Car, and they draw a map. But it would have been just a duplicate just to get the experience of making an app. Mm-hmm. My husband came home one day and said, I missed a boat because I looked in my phone for the ferry schedule, and it was too small, and I couldn't see it. And then he said, and I was at my hairdresser, and she was raving about the subway app that a couple of people have done here in Toronto, and that she can just pull out her iPhone and look up the schedule for when the next train is coming, or the next bus is coming, or something like that. And I thought, oh, I have to do the island ferry schedule. And we could do it with something to do with where I am on the island, find something. And then it came to me, find the ferry docks. And then eventually we thought maybe we could draw a line from where you are to the ferry dock. And so putting those 2 things together was pretty exciting.
So it sounds like it was kind of a click experience when you had the idea, suddenly you realized, oh yeah, this actually is a great idea for me to do.
It was, and all these ideas, I was going through all the different kinds of apps there were and trying to think which would be a good kind to make. And I had done so much competitive analysis on the other apps And finally, as you said, it just all came together.
Now, once you had the idea, could you more or less see it all in your mind's eye? I mean, I know you said you subsequently had the idea of drawing the line, but aside from that, was it kind of all there in your mind's eye, or was there a transition period between theoretical idea and this is what I want the app to look like? Or actually, more importantly to me, this is what I want the app experience to be like for the user.
Yeah, I don't think the whole experience changed a lot, but we sure refined it a lot over time. I worked with a partner, and she's a graphic designer.
Now, if you did not already know someone who was a graphic designer, based on what you learned on the course, what would you have done?
Well, I would have hired a graphic designer at that point.
Okay, and that doesn't necessarily mean going on Craigslist and paying the top rates in Toronto.
No, I guess I could have done it through Elance or Freelancer or Odesk, some of the same places that I ended up hiring the programmers.
Yeah, and the graphics for my Photo Voice app were done in Pakistan. So,
right, and the team that we worked with in Pakistan had a graphic designer as well.
Starting from, I would like to have my own app, to there is my app in the store, what was the most challenging or difficult or time-consuming or frustrating?
I'd have to say it was the part where we hired the programmers, where we put the ads in 3 different freelancing sites, and we got over 30 replies. I looked into the background of all 30 people who replied to us, which for me meant looking at all of their ratings on the various places where I was looking to hire them, and also looking at the apps they said they had programmed and sending emails to the people who they had done the apps for and trying to get references.
You were doing your due diligence.
Yeah, I was.
That's 30 people after you already had taken steps to exclude as many unqualified people as possible from some of the stuff you had learned in the course. Is that accurate?
I did all that stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
So if you hadn't, you probably would have had 150 people, 120 of whom would have definitely been unqualified. But even so, you had 30. And was every one of the 30 qualified?
On paper, they were all qualified, but when I started interviewing them, problems would show up. The first one looked so good on paper. I thought his qualifications were the best, and the apps that he had done looked good. But when we started having a chat in Skype, typing rather than audio, it fairly quickly became obvious that he couldn't communicate with me very well. And it felt like a close call. It felt like, oh my gosh, we almost hired this guy because he looked so good on paper. I had made a few mistakes, too, in communicating with the programmers when we got into the Skype chat. I didn't do the mock-up or the wireframe in exactly the right way.
Okay, and let me interrupt for a second, Sandy, for people who don't know, because when I first saw the term wireframe in the apps course, that scared me. I thought, okay, wait, you promised it wasn't going to be technical, and now there's something called a wireframe. I want out. And it turns out wireframe simply refers to a mock-up of what the app will look like, and there are lots of ways to do wireframes. And in the course, we learned, at least what I found, a really, really cool way. That's actually, when I saw that way of showing the programmer what I wanted the app to do, that got me more excited than anything else in the course, because suddenly I realized, well, I can do that, even I. So you did not do that with at least one of the programmers. Is that what you're saying?
That's right, and I think I emailed you in our group and said that it hadn't worked very well, and you got back to me and said, well, you didn't do it the right way.
Well, that was supportive of me. Yes,
but you were right.
I just want to tell everybody that if you join our iPhone apps mastermind group, it's a totally supportive environment. You know, you're among friends where you'll get helpful advice like, well, you did it wrong.
So, it certainly surfaced that this first programmer that we had really carefully selected, thinking he's going to be the one, was not the right one. And I think it was the third or fourth one that we talked with on Skype that we eventually hired. And maybe it was just part of getting comfortable and knowing what questions to ask. And it's amazing how when you have to rely on Skype chat, everything has to be spelled out so clearly.
And for me, it really helped force me to crystallize my ideas and I knew what my idea was in my head, but okay, great. Now I've got to really make sure this person on the other side of the world somehow sees what's in my head. And you're right that writing it that way was very helpful. And I also want to stress something else that you alluded to. You mentioned Skype and a Skype chat. Maybe somewhere somebody does them like a telephone call, but the way that we learned, and I think that what all of us have done, we do a writing on Skype, texting on Skype. And I think there's several advantages to it. One is, oddly, it removes the requirement that you have some kind of a personal, immediate connection with that other person. You know, sometimes you meet somebody and you just hit it off immediately, and you're immediately in a conversation and you're finishing each other's sentences, and it's incredibly good. And other times you meet somebody and you don't find it easy to talk to them. But when it's in text, you still need to be able to communicate easily, but you no longer are dependent upon liking the sound of their voice or the tone of their voice or their loudness or their accent or anything. So I think that was tremendously valuable. Also, I mentioned accents before. I was thinking regional accents, but national accents become irrelevant. If you're a native English speaker, whoever you hire or interview, they will speak English. And there are many millions of people who write virtually perfect English, but they don't necessarily speak English perfectly. And even if they speak it grammatically well, often they will speak it with an accent that you or I might find distracting. So the programmer that I interviewed and hired wrote perfect English. And he spoke it well, too. But the couple of times I heard his voice, the first time I heard his voice was on a test of photo voice. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, he tested it, on his own iPhone. And now my programmer is in India, and I never heard his voice until he emailed me a photo voice test. And it was kind of surprising because his English is so perfect. It was surprising to hear someone speak with a thick Indian accent, as well he should.
I haven't heard my programmers' voices, and they're from Pakistan, but they haven't heard mine either. And my accent might be just as distracting to them.
So when did you realize that you really could do this, that you really could take that idea in your head and have it become a real app that sells in the iTunes App Store around the world, although I guess it's pretty much bought in the Toronto area or maybe by people who are coming to visit Toronto, and that you could create an app that people actually would use? When did you realize, oh my gosh, this is actually something I can do?
I think it's when we got the first build. When the programmers sent us the first version of it that we could run on our phones.
And that's what a build is. It's a version. It's a computer program, I guess, but they call it a build. And so when they sent it to you and you could test it on your iPhone, it's a working version, not completed, but it's a real version.
It was really exciting. It's like, wow, this is going to really be real.
Yeah, that's an amazing moment. Once you began the process, was there ever a time at which you felt, this just isn't going to work, I want to give up? It's what I call the inevitable moment of despair.
There was. It was back in the hiring the programmer stage, when we had been fairly happy with the fourth one, and we were thinking maybe we would hire the fourth one. And then I got an email from someone who they had worked with before who didn't give them such a great review. And then we agonized over whether we needed to start again, or who did we believe in this instance? Was it the programmer or was it the other app developer? And so then we went back to the programmer at that point and said, we've had a small negative review on you, and what really happened? I said, the other thing that we haven't talked about at this point is that this is going to be really time critical for us, because the Toronto Island Ferry is really busy from about May till October, and in the winter it's not so busy. So we really want to launch this by May 1st. And here's just an aside, we did end up launching on May 1st. This was back in March. I said, we haven't really talked about whether you have other work going on at the same moment, and will we get some priority, or are you going to work on hours for a day a week, or... And he said, no, we don't have any other work right now. We'd be all set to start on yours tomorrow if you give us the work.
Was that part of the problem that someone had complained about? Not necessarily the quality of the work, but that they felt that their schedule suffered because the developer was working on other projects at the same time?
I don't think that was exactly what they said, but they did say that they had had hard time communicating and getting times to meet and things like that. And so then that put into my mind, oh, wow, we have to make sure they know that we're going to need this soon. It's not just going to be 100 hours or 200 hours or whatever it is over a 6-month period of time, that we really need their attention right now.
That raises a couple of points that I would like to underscore. One is when you say 4 programmers, you did not hire 4 programmers and have 3 bad experiences. You interviewed a total of 4 programmers. And
that's right.
I guess hired 2. Did you hire the first one?
No, didn't hire the first one. Hired the 4th, and it turned out to be a company, not an individual programmer.
Right. And there are different ways to deal with companies, also known as teams, versus individuals. The other thing I really want to make sure no one missed is that it was March 1st, and you had never made an app, and you had never interviewed an app programmer via Skype on another continent, and on May 1st, your app was in the store on May 1st, or was it?
It was May 1st. It was in the App Store.
And what was it like when you submitted the app to Apple and then had to wait, I presume, somewhere between 1 and 5 business days to find out whether it would be approved? Did you just go about your everyday life and not even think about it at all, or did you check your email every other minute to see?
Yeah, I checked my email every other minute. That was the most agonizing time. You know, after the submission, I think it was on a Wednesday morning, and we were elated to have submitted it. And then Thursday we thought, well, let's start checking. I think it was Wednesday around 10 o'clock at night or 10:30 at night. It got accepted. And I didn't know, but I woke up at 2 in the morning on Thursday and checked my email, and it was in the App Store. So I was pretty excited. That's
an amazing experience. And you would think that they would do something more monumental than just send you a form email saying, oh, by the way, we almost forgot, but your app has been accepted. No, there should be trumpets blowing. The screenshots for your app, I really love them. The design is beautiful. And I love the fact that simply by viewing the screenshots on your app's sales page, I can see exactly what the app does, and I can see how I could use it. You know, if I happen to be in the Toronto area, I don't have to read anything. I mean, there's a description above it, and I didn't read it because the pictures tell me. That really is one of the best jobs I've seen in any app description. I think it's phenomenally good.
Thanks for all those kind words about the screenshot. And I'm like you. That's what I do when I'm looking at apps. I scroll down and go through the screenshots. And then if I think it's intriguing, then I go back and read the description.
And it's amazing how many people have apps in the marketplace, and some of those apps must be good, but the screenshots are terrible, the icon is terrible, the description is terrible, it's like a bad radio commercial. The important stuff is what happens before and after the app is created. It's the marketing and the presentation. And by marketing, I don't mean selling. By marketing, I mean getting your app in front of the person who really would love to have it. That's a huge part of successful apps, and it's something that most people just don't think of. And fortunately, the course that you and I took dealt extensively with marketing, and fortunately, this is a pretty good segue. Chad's course, which I still... Here, I'll mention Chad's course now, but then I want to ask you about the mastermind group. Okay, Chad's course goes very, very deep into the marketing. And by deep, I don't mean difficult. I mean just lots of great ideas and lots of psychology. And there was one, I think it was in video number 2, the free video that was available to everyone and still is at the time of this recording, the tips he was giving about keyword research, for example, which might sound like some scary marketing thing, but it's really simple. Did you see that video?
I did see that, and that was really, really interesting. And
For
I
me,
started playing with keywords.
There you go.
Going through the App Store just as you.
I had to force myself to stop because it was getting late at night. But my reaction was simultaneously, that is brilliant, and why didn't I think of that? I never thought of doing a keyword search to see what other apps are doing well with that keyword. When I say marketing, that's an example of marketing. So Chad is the guy who taught me and who taught Sandy and the rest of our mastermind group how to create apps, even though none of us is a programmer, none of us wants to be a programmer, most of us are intimidated by that kind of technology. And Chad is the guy who taught us. And Chad subsequently came out with a best-selling book about creating your own app empire. And Chad has meticulously created his own course on how to build your own app empire. And it really is not hype. What he means is actually building a company if you want. I mean, you could just make one app and have fun. That's great. It's a great feeling. And we've talked about this in the mastermind group. I don't know if you experienced this, Sandy, but when people find out that you make apps, they're impressed.
Oh, really?
Have you had that?
True. Yeah, I've definitely had that.
When they hear that you created an iPhone app, it's like all the conversation in the room stops and everyone looks at you. And you have to fight the temptation to say, well, yeah, but I really don't know much about it because I hire people. But
people say, gee, I know someone who makes apps.
Yeah, exactly. And I've started hearing from strangers who say, I understand you make apps. Is it possible you can make one for our company? And my answer has been no, because I'm doing it for myself. But it's kind of nice knowing that someone saw my app and thought enough of it to think that maybe I could do a good job for them. The app empire he's talking about is the sustainable business that you can build if you want to. Now, for myself, I hope I will end up going that full sustainable business route. I mean, Chad has built and sold 3 app-making businesses so far. And so he built it up, sold it for a bunch of money, and just started a new one. And that would be a really smart thing to do business-wise. Right now, I'm still in the stage of being delighted at being able to have an idea and bring it to fruition. And for me, I cannot describe how cool it is knowing that people in something like 40 countries are using my app. And
really, that's exciting.
And mine's not a big famous success story. Mine's just a little photo voice app. But that's really exciting for me. I am hoping that after I get the initial half dozen ideas that I already have done, then I will do what Chad recommends, which is sit down and really map it out for the rest of them. So I'm thinking in advance of how they're all going to work together. But I'm excited purely for what I am learning. I haven't finished, as I'm recording this, I have not gone through the entire course, but I've watched a large percentage of the video training. And right now, I'm just excited about applying what I've learned in terms of researching the market, deciding what app to make, what to name it, graphics, and marketing concepts. And if I never try to have my own app empire, that's okay. I'm just thrilled at the idea of really taking this to another level. So Chad has opened the doors to this course. He's never taught it before, and it's a very limited opportunity. And there was one person who on our I'm a Radio Pro web Facebook page, and you know who you are. There's one person who made a posting recently saying, "Oh, I can't believe I waited. I didn't see the original email about that course. Is it really closed?" And you'll see in my posting they're saying, "Yeah, I'm sorry, it really is." And that was before I knew that Chad was going to come out with a course. So when this closes, it closes. And so if you go to dansavesradio.com, you'll see all the information, the videos, the sign-up link. And if you decide to take the plunge and join us in what's really an exciting, creative journey, and one that has every possibility of being profitable, something that enables you to take your creativity and actually build your dream and be rewarded for it, rather than have someone say, "No, we don't think that's a good idea here. We don't do it that way here," or somebody tried it here 20 years ago and it didn't work. If you decide that really appeals to you, make sure that you sign up through the Dan Saves Radio link. And that's because if you do, then we will invite you to join us in our iPhone Apps Mastermind group, which is a private group. Right now, the only members are people who took the course from Trey back in February through dansavesradio.com. And we'll be inviting everyone who signs up for Chad's course, which means that you get to benefit from the X number of months of experience of everyone in the group. I mean, Sandy, is it accurate to say that from the day we started the mastermind group to today, individuals and the group have made a lot of progress?
Oh, definitely.
Because, I mean, at first I was the only one who had any answers at all because I had already taken the course. So I wasn't smarter than anybody, but at least I could say when somebody raised a question, I could say, "Oh, yeah, he covers that in this chapter," or something. Or I could correct something. But gradually, as everyone else started going through the course, that's when it really ramped up. And somebody had a question or a problem, and they would post it, and almost immediately there are responses there. So,
and moral support about how long does it take for
yeah,
Apple to approve your app and things like that. How many days?
Absolutely. Which I could have used when I submitted mine, because mine was torturous.
It is. It's such a nervous time. And
I remember there was one of our members, and we won't name him because I don't know if he wants this to be public, but one of our members made a posting. He was just demoralized. He had to fire a programmer. He had made a bad hire, and he had to fire a programmer. And I don't recall his exact words, but he said, "This just feels hopeless." I don't know. I don't remember the words, but I remember the feeling. Right?
That's what it was.
Yeah. And about 1 week later, or a week and a half later, he had hired a different programmer, and it was a good hire. And he was so excited. And just a couple weeks after that, his app was in the store. And that's when, if you remember, I made the posting in the group, "Hey, remember how you felt 2.5 weeks ago?"
I do remember that. Yeah.
So the mastermind group to me, is priceless. So you'll be joining everyone who signs up right now through dansavesradio.com, and also you'll be joining everyone who has been doing this for months now, and almost all of us, there are one or two exceptions, almost all of us either work in radio, formerly worked in radio, or we work in voiceovers or radio production. There are a couple of total civilians in the group, but that's the makeup. So no matter what you're doing right now, you're going to fit in. And because it's important, I will stress this, you have to use the dansavesradio.com link when you register. And to make sure, what you do is don't just go to what you bookmarked. When you launch your browser, clear your cache, the temporary memory, and type in dansavesradio.com, and that'll take you to the sign-up page. And the reason is that's what tells us you signed up through my link. So you're one of my people, and you get invited to join the group. So I think that's our big pitch for signing up for Chad's class, and it's through dansavesradio.com, and there is an absolutely reassuring 100% money-back guarantee. If you haven't decided yet whether to join us, whether to take Chad's class, this might do it for you. If you've watched the videos and you've listened to or watched this conversation, and your reaction is, I don't see why anyone would want to do this. I don't see any appeal there. Who cares about apps? Then the answer is no. Don't do it thinking, well, it sounds boring to me. I don't get it, But I did see how all those people are making so much money doing it, and I am looking for a way to make more money. If this doesn't appeal to you, but you're looking for a way to make more money, there are other opportunities out there for you, and go for those. I think the internal enthusiasm is a tremendous benefit to you in this kind of venture. That's what you need to get started, and that's what you need when you do hit a road bump. And your road bumps are going to be a lot smaller and a lot fewer because of the mastermind group, but still, you don't push a button and your app appears. You do have to do stuff. So if you don't have that spark, if it just doesn't sound interesting, that's cool. That's your reaction to all this. Go find something else that's a better way for you to spend your time and use your skills and make money. On the other hand, if all this sounds good, if you find the idea kind of exciting, and what's holding you back is mostly fear that it's all legitimate, but that you personally cannot do it. That, yes, you understand all those people are having tremendous success. You understand that that darn 10-year-old kid is,
right.
Like, that's all I need to hear is that a 10-year-old has his own app empire, and I've got my one little app, But if you're thinking, yeah, okay, all those people are just doing having tremendous success and loving it and living that lifestyle, and it's so easy, even a 10-year-old can do it, but I personally am so stupid that I can't. Well, unless you have independent proof that does say you're that much more stupid than the rest of the world, this is a case of if they can do it, so can you. So please don't let fear stop you. If you want to do it, jump in. Start watching the videos, taking the course, trying the stuff that you learn, and if you realize, oh, you know what, this was a mistake, you got 30 days. But I guess I'm speaking from my own experience in life in general. Not doing something primarily or solely because you're afraid is really not a good way to go through life. And I realize that everyone turns to me for life advice, and that's why, Sandy, I felt obliged. I mean, you're always calling. Everyone in the group is always asking me for personal advice, like dating advice, cooking advice, vitamins, right? It's just they see me as an all-knowing guru. Yeah.
There was one thing I wanted to say about the mastermind group. When you asked me what was the hardest part, or when did you feel discouraged, and I felt discouraged when we were having a hard time hiring a programmer, and that maybe we would have to start our search again. I might have stopped at that point. I might have dropped out. But two things kept me going. One was my partner, who's the graphic designer. I thought, well, we've come this far. I can't let her down. But also the mastermind group. It's good in terms of asking for advice and getting help. But there's a little bit of peer pressure there, too, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to say I cannot master hiring a graphic artist, let's say, when all these other people in the group already have done it.
And really, all along the way, when everybody's announcing what their app is going to be, you think, oh, I really better look more at all of the apps and think harder about what I might do and what experience I could bring to the choice of an app that I make.
And
anyway,
in
the group really helps spur you on.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. And when people announce their apps, that's when a lot of us jump in and we will ask questions to help understand what the app does. And there have been times when someone has made a suggestion or two that the other person said, oh, that's a great idea, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Or even better, they've said, yeah, that's already built into the plan. And that just reaffirms it for them. So that's the mastermind group. It is a private mastermind group devoted to iPhone apps. And there are no, as far as I can see, there are no bad apples. There's no one in there who's saying, no, you can't do that, this doesn't work, it's hopeless. We're all just doing our best, and on good days we're able to help others, and times when we feel frustrated we go in and somebody, without exception, will step up and say, hey, relax, have you tried this? Try this, do this, here's a link to this. And right now, the discussion this week, people are sharing names of their app programmers. There's one person who is looking for a new programmer, and so people are talking, and it's all off the record, the rest of the world can't see it. They're talking about the experiences they had, the people they've used, and at least one person has said, yeah, I think he was recommending his programmer is in Romania, as I recall. And it's just cool to see. So, Sandy, as people know, I can go on like this forever. But I just want to thank you for taking your time. I want to remind people that I've been talking to Sandy Wood, also known as Sandra Wood, who lives in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Sandy is an accomplished voice actor. She's also the creator, with her partner, of Toronto Island Ferry Finder. And I will put a link either on or below the video directly to the app so people can check it out. And I hope when you see it, you'll leave comments about those graphics. Just do me a favor. Look at the page that shows the graphics, and you tell me, can you just look at the graphics and immediately get a clear sense of what the app does and how that would help you? It would be cool to see people make comments so Sandy can get some feedback there. And the class closes very soon. Chad and I have exchanged lots of emails. We had one extended phone conversation, and he's a cool guy. He loves teaching it. He's really good at it. And I have found him to be nothing but a straight shooter and someone whom I'm proud to partner with. I'm presenting this to you. So if it sounds good, go to dansavesradio.com before it's too late and sign up. Make sure that you use the dansavesradio.com link. And after you've signed up, send me an email letting me know so I can invite you to join our mastermind group. So I'm Dan O'Day from danodday.com and from dansavesradio.com. And Sandy Wood, any last words? I'm going to let you close the show. The last words people will hear will be yours.
Dan, do you think I should take the new course?
Oh, I'm sorry. I said the last words would be yours. So
I know. Sorry, I'm dying to ask you.
Boy,
do you think I should take Chad's course after taking Trey's course?
Here's my answer, because I knew I would be asked that by members in our group who've taken Trey's course. And my answer is yes. If you were pleased with Trey's course, if you felt that you got value for money. Now, Trey's course was really inexpensive. I was surprised at how low he priced it. But if you felt that for that price, what you learned, you at least got your money's worth.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Then yes. Chad's course is like Trey's. It's just like Trey's, but on steroids. It covers just a lot more and in a lot more depth. And that is not to denigrate Trey's work at all. I'll say it again. Trey, if it weren't for Trey, I wouldn't have an app out there that I'm really proud of.
Right, and same here. And if not for you, also.
Oh, well, thank you.
But I don't feel like an expert yet. I've done one app.
Well, and you don't see me announcing my own app making course yet.
Right.
Because I've only been doing it 6 months or something, so I don't think I'm an expert yet. I'll probably have to do it 7 months before I put out my course.
Oh, okay, 7 months.
So yeah, but
7 months it is.
But
we'll hold you to that.
But I'm glad that both of us gave a shout out to Trey. In no way is this implying that Trey had let us down. If it weren't for Trey, I wouldn't have made Photo Voice, and then Photo Voice is the professional accomplishment of which I am most proud for at least the last year, if not going back farther. So I owe Trey a lot, and for anyone who is part of our group and took Trey's course, yeah, I really recommend it, because you guys are not going to have that fear/skepticism. Most people, when they sign up for a course like this, as soon as they pay, they're relieved and excited, but they're also scared. They click on the link to see what's inside the course, hoping they won't be disappointed. And you guys won't have that fear.
Right. No, I definitely want to learn a lot more. So
yeah. So yes,
maybe that's I
recommend
how I can do it.
Yes, Sandy, I recommend that you sign up for it, and I recommend that you sign up all of your friends, that you personally pay for all of your friends and relatives to take the course too. Just make sure that you or they use the dansavesradio.com link.
Okay, I'll tell them.
Okay, and now I'm going to give you the real last words, unless you give me an opportunity to speak again.
You're going to give me the real last words?
Yeah. Here you go.
I have no idea what to say. Sorry.
There you go. That's it, folks. We're all done. Sandy, thank you so much. It's great talking to you, and I hope people will leave feedback about your app, because I think it's absolutely wonderful, and I can't imagine anyone can look at these screenshots and not be impressed as heck. So,
no, that's great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy. Fun. Thank you, everybody, for being with us, and see you at dansavesradio.com, and hopefully I'll see you inside our iPhones Apps Mastermind group.